Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am genuinely so glad you're here with us. Today, we're going to take a really cinematic and honestly a deeply healing journey through a beautifully profound story. We're looking at a narrative that explores the sheer physical and emotional weight of the things we just refuse to leave behind. So let's dive right in because this isn't just a story about a man on a mountain, you know? It's really a mirror reflecting how every single one of us handles our deepest regrets.
The strongest people are not those who carry the most weight. They are the ones who know what to let go of. I want to use this as our anchor today. It completely challenges how society conditions us to view our burdens, right? We so often think that enduring pain makes us strong, that silently carrying this massive, heavy load is some kind of badge of honor. But as we're going to see in this explainer, true strength requires something much, much harder, the courage to just open your hands.
So our source material kicks off with this stunning, quiet contrast. Picture this. The golden sun is just starting to rise over the mountains, casting this gorgeous light across a totally peaceful valley. But right in the middle of this perfect, serene morning, a man named Elias is in absolute turmoil. His hands are literally trembling as he reaches into his heavy backpack. There's this deeply tragic tension here between the fresh, new morning all around him and the dark, exhausting weight he's carrying inside that bag. Inside that bag, there is just one remaining item. It's a massive rock, the stone of guilt. It is the absolute largest and heaviest thing Elias carries. He is literally lugging his guilt around as a physical stone just to punish himself. And it's all driven by this flawed, tragic belief that if he just suffers enough, if he carries enough pain on his own back, he can somehow magically repay the past. Now, you might be wondering, why exactly is Elias doing this to himself? Well, this timeline brilliantly illustrates the unresolved pain he's been replaying for years. It starts out okay with a warm memory of his father's smile. But then, the final argument, the harsh, biting words they spoke to each other in anger, the heavy silence that followed, and finally, the devastating news of his father's sudden passing before they could ever reconcile. Elias has been trapped in this terrible loop, repeating this exact sequence in his head day after day after day. Which brings us to Section 1, the interrogation of guilt. See, Elias isn't alone on this mountain. An old monk who's been quietly watching him carry this terrible burden steps forward, points right at the edge of the cliff, and asks him this incredibly sharp question. If your father were standing here today, would he ask you to carry this stone for the rest of your life? I really want you to feel the weight of that question. The monk brilliantly forces Elias to step completely outside his own suffering and view his punishment through the eyes of the person he loves. He forces him to confront the false reality that his ongoing guilt somehow equals his love. And Elias, through tears, just whispers, "No, he would tell me to live." And the monk replies, "Then why are you honoring his memory by destroying your own life?" Wow. That completely shatters Elias's entire belief system. For years, he honestly thought carrying guilt proved his devotion. But in this singular moment, he realizes a profound truth. Love doesn't ask us to remain prisoners forever. Section 2, the metaphor of nature. Now, the monk doesn't just stop at logic. To really cement this realization, he points out a small tree on the mountainside. Every single autumn, it lets go of every leaf. Now, the crucial point here is why. It isn't because the dead leaves are worthless. It's because holding onto them physically stops new life from growing. Letting go isn't about losing something valuable. It is the fundamental requirement for making room for something better. You literally cannot grasp the future if your hands are tightly gripping the past. Section 3, the act of release. We've reached the emotional climax of our explainer. Because understanding the metaphor is great, but Elias actually has to make the choice. Before physically throwing the stone, he goes through this incredibly healthy emotional release. First, he speaks to his father, acknowledging that yesterday cannot be changed. Second, he gives thanks for everything his father gave him. And third, and absolutely most importantly, he says out loud, "Today, I forgive myself." He verbally and emotionally releases the grip the past has on him, totally preparing himself for the physical act. He closes his eyes, and with all his strength, Elias throws the stone into the valley. He watches it disappear among the rocks way down below. Then, just silence. Just taking a breath, feeling the finality of that release. And the physical relief is immediate. After years of being literally bent over by the weight of his own guilt, his shoulders instantly relax. His breathing becomes easier. And for the very first time since his childhood,
Elias stands completely upright. The backpack that had dictated his posture, his mood, his entire life was finally empty. When the monk asks him how he feels, Elias replies with this beautiful thought: lighter. Not because my past disappeared, but because it no longer controls my future. This wonderfully illustrates the core message we're looking at today. The memories of his father, the argument, the passing, they still exist. They're going to remain there to guide him and offer wisdom, but they will no longer chain him to the ground.
Moving on to section 4, passing the wisdom on. Let's shift our focus and fast forward a bit. Years have passed since that morning on the mountain. Elias has returned to his village, and the peace he found that day has deeply, deeply integrated into who he is. And this wisdom he gained, it isn't just for him anymore. He's ready to share it. Just look at what putting down emotional weight literally does to your physical presence. The before Elias had this bent back, constantly burdened by the past, just exhausted by his own mind. But the after Elias, he has a straight back, a genuine smile, and a deep peace in his eyes that immediately draws people to him. He isn't just surviving anymore, he's thriving. One afternoon, Elias meets a young, completely exhausted traveler lugging an enormous backpack, begging to know how to make life easier. Elias doesn't just give him a pep talk. He hands him an empty sack and a large rock and tells him to carry it for a week. Why? Because of this incredibly powerful truth. You don't understand unnecessary weight until you choose to put it down. He wants the young man to physically realize how much of his own suffering is entirely optional. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Your Invisible Stones. All right, let's pivot and talk directly about you and me, because it is time to apply this beautiful parable to our own lives. The reality is, we are all walking up our own mountains, and we are all carrying backpacks that are way, way heavier than they need to be. Think about the invisible stones we carry: a painful childhood, a broken relationship, a failed dream, a mistake we just cannot seem to forget, a regret we replay every single night before we fall asleep. We all carry these. The question isn't whether you've been hurt. We all have. The real question is, how long are you going to keep carrying things that no longer help you? Let's be real for a second and break down the harsh, practical reality of our emotional baggage. Holding on to anger? It doesn't actually punish the person who hurt you. Holding on to guilt? It absolutely does not rewrite the past. Holding on to regret? It doesn't create a better future. Carrying these specific emotions doesn't fix a single thing in the real world. The only thing they do is weigh down the person carrying them. You are the only one feeling the weight of the stone in your bag. So here is the crucial takeaway from all of this. The past is a place to learn from, not a place to live in. Your scars can absolutely become wisdom. Your failures can become vital lessons, and your pain can actually become an incredible source of strength. But, and this is a massive but, that transformation only happens if you stop treating those experiences as burdens you are forced to carry. I want to ask you something, and I really want you to think about it. What is the one stone you've been carrying for far too long? Is it a name? A specific mistake? A deeply held regret? Whatever it is, maybe today is the exact right day for you to finally put it down. Because life becomes infinitely more beautiful when your hands are free to build the future, instead of just gripping on to the past. If this explainer resonated with you today, please make sure to subscribe to Tales with Wisdom to keep exploring these incredible lessons with us. I want to end by bringing us right back to where we started. Remember, the strongest people are not those who carry the most weight. They are the ones who know what to let go of. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, will you reach for your backpack, or will you finally leave it behind? Thank you so much for joining me today. Put your stones down and take care.